This
Did it go on? Okay.
I think my
So,
button is lit red, so I think so.
yeah, mine too. All right, guys, this is Len Sierra moderating for the ANCAN video chat for the high risk recurrent and advanced group. And as always, we start off acknowledging and thanking our sponsors, Bayer, Pfizer, Myovant, Janssen, Myriad, Telix, and Foundation Medicine. And tonight, or whatever time you like, we're going to start with Jim Meltzner. He's new.
Fuck is going
Jim, I'm
on?
going to go through a series of questions I want to ask you, and don't get ahead of me on the questions. We do this for a reason. It helps. All right.
Okay.
So first question, Jim, is how old are you?
59. I'll be 60 on Monday.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
And where do you live, Jim?
Washington, D.C.
Okay. How'd you hear about? Oh, you heard about ANCAN through Jimmy Greenfield, right?
Correct.
Right.
The great Jimmy Greenfield.
The great Jimmy, and we're going to be very suspicious of you, so extra. We have to be extra vigilant because we know Jimmy's friends. When were you first diagnosed, Jim? Yeah, Jim.
October of 2019. Yeah, 19. October of 19.
2019. Okay. And do you recall your Gleason score and PSA level at that time?
My Gleason score was a 4+5, and my PSA was 7 point something.
Okay. And which doctors did you see and at which institution?
I saw Dr. Whalen at George Washington University.
Okay. And is he a urologist?
Correct.
All right. So what was the recommended therapy?
I was given the option of either doing a radical prostatectomy or radiation.
Right. And which one did you choose?
I chose the radical prostatectomy.
And that was done in 2019 or 2020?
It was done 2 years ago, almost to the day. So that would have been 2021.
But you did nothing from 20?
No,
October.
actually, so I got the date wrong. So it was October of 20 then when I would have been diagnosed.
Okay.
Does that make
Okay,
sense?
glad-
And then I had surgery. Yeah.
All right. Glad to hear that. And
No, I did have a high PSA score 5 years prior to that, and went through an MRI and biopsy and everything else, but everything was benign, and my PSA went back down to normal.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it was prostatitis. Did they tell you what it was?
Didn't no. I mean, there was some growth, but it was all benign.
Okay. So you had the prostatectomy in 2021, and what happened after that?
I made a quick recovery, felt great, was humming along, thinking everything was going to be fine. And I don't know, 6 months ago, my PSA went up from 0.004 to 0.005, which was not really cause for alarm. And then, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, it went from 0.005 to 0.155. So it almost more than doubled over the 3-month period. So I'm
Okay.
getting, all right, I'll let you keep going with your questions.
Yeah. So are they telling you you're going to be scanned soon. They're going to wait till you
Yes,
get to zero point
I'm getting
0.2.
a PET. I'm getting a PET scan on May 15th.
Okay, sounds good. And I think it was Dr. John or someone recently. Dennis Correa, could you mute? Uh, we saw a paper where salvage radiation therapy is best done at 0.25 or below. So talk to your doctor about that.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's coming up. What about genetic testing? Have you had any of that?
No. Should I?
Okay, when you're high risk like that and you're now recurrent, we do recommend getting germline, which is inherited uh, genetic analysis, as well as a somatic analysis, which is your tumor DNA, to see which they can do from your prostatectomy tissue.
Hmm.
See if you have any mutations that could affect your treatment choices. Okay, talk to your
Okay.
doctor about that too. By the way, do you so you're going to be scanned by now? I think you should probably have a medical oncologist on your team. Do you?
Not yet.
So you're still just seeing the urologist.
Correct.
All right.
But I
We would.
plan to. I plan to. I plan to talk to him about finding a medical oncologist.
Okay. And maybe we can help you with that. I think Rick just dropped off, right? Anyone else in the DC area want
Now,
to recommend?
I'm here, but why don't we get through the questions and then we'll get into that then when we're done,
Okay.
when we throw it out.
Okay. Let's see. Actually, I think I covered all my questions. So
Good job.
I think you dropped off for a minute there, Rick, but
No,
he's going to
I
be
did
scanned.
back on and it said I dropped off when I hadn't, so I don't know what's going on here. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I mean, I can kick off. Once the disease comes back, as I'm sure Jimmy has told you, knowing Jimmy, um, really are out of the bailiwick of most urologists. Not all, but most. There are some who are pretty capable, but most not. The problem oftentimes is they don't want to let you go. Um, if you're seeing somebody that's part of the GW practice, it is possible that he's going to be more accepting. He may refer you to Nancy Dawson, who is a GU medical oncologist at GW, but she's not our favorite. She's not bad, but she wouldn't be my choice, is I can put it that way. You're somewhat limited in Washington. There are some other people. There's a person, Aragon Ching, a woman who's down in Fairfax. Again, she wouldn't be my choice, but there are guys in this room who see her too. Um,
Can I ask you why
I,
they wouldn't be your choice? I mean, do you have a reason for
we've
that, or?
watched, yeah, we've watched how they treat, and I don't think that their treatment protocols are necessarily up to what we would like to see men get. So, I'm having to stretch my mind a little bit with Dr. Dawson, and I'd have to go back in and look and see where the issues are. I could get back to you in more detail. But I think one of the issues, if they don't germline test, for example, it is standard protocol at this point, and sometimes they don't do it. So, you know, I would say, well, why don't we throw it open first of all? We'll give you a little bit of guidance as to what to expect. But let's first of all throw it open to men who are in the Delmarva area to talk about who they might want to see. Somebody has their hand raised. Is that somebody who wants to talk on? Let's see, who is that? It's Jim Marshall. Yeah, go ahead, Jim Marshall.
Um, yes, okay. A correction and that Nancy Dawson is at Georgetown.
Oh, okay. Excuse me.
Okay.
Thank you for the correction. Anybody have any input as to who to see in the Washington D.C. area?
I think I would like to ask one thing of Jim is that we are not far from Baltimore, and of course, Johns
Right.
Hopkins is a center of excellence. That being this close to it is different than being hundreds of miles from it, and you may want to consider that. That's just what I'm thinking.
Yeah, you know, the problem is we struggle now at Hopkins as well.
Tell me where you don't struggle around here.
Well, that's the thing. But there are. I mean, we can definitely come up with Hopkins. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe at Sibley. What's her name? The lady who did the webinar for us.
Poller. Poller. Channing Poller?
Yes, thank you. Channing Paller, yes. Channing Paller at Sibley.
She's very good, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you. Channing Paller at Sibley. There you go.
Okay.
By the way,
Any other names?
Rick, I did forget one question for Jim, which is, Jim, do you have any questions for us?
The only thing I'm trying to figure out is, I mean, so I get my PET scan, I meet with my urologist, we talk about treatment, we talk about finding a different doctor. I understand he's going to want to keep me, but that's fine. I'm going to go find a different doctor no matter what to talk to them anyway. I mean, how long do I have to start treatment like tomorrow? Like if I go on May 19th, am I looking at starting like in June, or can I wait to the end of the summer, or does it all really depend on what it looks like?
Well, let me answer that first, and then we'll open it up. As I mentioned earlier, our Dr. John Antonucci sent me a paper hot off the press, a study showing that men who had their salvage radiation therapy done at a PSA of 0.25 or less fared better than those who waited until the PSA was somewhere between 0.25 and 0.50. So in that sense, there's a little bit of urgency. It all depends on how fast your PSA is actually rising.
Mm-hmm.
So the PET scan is scheduled for when?
May 15th.
Okay, a couple of weeks.
They wanted to wait a month before I did another blood test, because they said we could take your blood tomorrow, but it's not going to show us the progress of what's going on. So that's why we're waiting.
I would say you get the PET scan and then see what the results are, if it shows anything. And, first of all, of course, if it shows something, then get the salvage radiation therapy. If it doesn't, then you still might want to have the salvage radiation therapy if your PSA rises above 0.25.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they would just radiate the the prostate bed plus the whole pelvic region. Anybody
Yeah, Len,
dissent from
I
that or
want
have
to.
another opinion?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
I haven't seen this paper, but there's an issue here. We've talked PET scans. We haven't talked about what type of PET scan. And frankly, the sort of PET scan that you really need, Jim, is what's called a PSMA PET scan, because
Yeah, I
that's the
believe
most.
that's what I'm getting.
Okay. Now, the problem is that the likelihood of you getting a result at less than 0.2 or even less than 0.25 is only around 40%. So this new paper that I haven't seen that suggests you get scanned under 0.25 really eliminates for a good 60% of men, if not more, the chance that we can see where the disease is coming from and how extensive the disease is. Now, we've seen these papers over years. Oftentimes you can wait 8 months, you need to get it done immediately, and every few months a paper comes out about when you should do salvage radiation. If it were me, I would do my utmost to wait until I could see where that cancer was, because that allows for the best and the most accurate treatment and allows you to plan. So two things are going to happen. There's going to be two results from this PSMA scan. Either we're going to see something or we're not going to see something. The problem is, if we don't see something, it doesn't mean that there isn't cancer there. There could be it could be your PSA isn't high enough, or B, you're not PSMA avid. You don't make PSMA. And there are about 20% of men who don't make PSMA. Now, we're not going to know whether you're PSMA avid or not reliably until your PSA got up to about 1.0. And you probably want to intervene before that. On the other hand, we are going to know if you are PSMA avid, we're much more likely to see something somewhere north of 0.5, which is where men have been getting treated. So, I'm willing to throw this out to the other moderators, and they've read the paper. But to me, pushing somebody into treatment at less than 0.25 is inconsistent with knowing where the cancer is.
Well, right now I'm at 0.14 and it doubled over a 3-month period. So I'm getting another blood test on the 15th as well. And I mean, I have no idea if it's going to double again or not. I mean, I just don't know.
Well, the issue is how likely is it to move? One of the cons is that you're a 5+4. So that
4+5.
Or 4+5, but even so, 4+5.
Yeah.
So that means it is aggressive. I would say this is where, before you make any decisions and before you go too much further, you got to set yourself up with a GU Medonc, because the urologists, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, they don't have the sophistication to pick up the nuances. They're not on top of the literature. And if you have a good genitourinary medical oncologist on your team, they're going to guide you better, in my view, I think in the view of most people here, than most urologists. I mean, okay, Neil Shore is terrific, but you're not going to go down to South Carolina to go to Neil Shore. There may be a guy at Chesapeake who's pretty vocal, but by and large, you want a GU Medonc. So my first move before you make any decisions to do anything is to set up an appointment, and really even to discuss whether you want to get a PSMA scan. Before you get the PSMA scan, you got to get a PSA test again. That's what I would do. I shouldn't say that. I can't give you the advice. If it were me, I would get a PSA test before I did my PSMA scan. Really important. Right before. And then decide if you want to go through with the PSMA scan. And to make that decision, you need to talk to a GU medical oncologist, because this discussion Has your urologist had a discussion with you about the sensitivity of PSMAs at low PSAs?
No.
You see, for me, I think he should do. And if he hasn't, he may not understand the importance. And this is why we're pushing you towards somebody that we know will be better educated.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I got one more question for Jim, if it's okay. Jim, you said you have connections in I know you spent a lot of time up in New England. You said you have connections at Dana-Farber that intrigue you. Could you explain that, and maybe that will mean anything to us?
Yeah, I've at my 1 year anniversary of being cancer free, which is exactly a year ago, a friend of mine from high school who actually just went through a bone marrow transplant. He had a cancer, and the treatment actually caused another kind of blood cancer. So he ended up with a bone marrow transplant, which seems to be working out pretty well for him. Was riding in the Pan Mass Challenge, which is a big fundraiser for cancer research at Dana-Farber. I decided to do that last April, and the ride is a 2-day ride, 190 miles across Massachusetts to raise money for cancer research at Dana-Farber.
Right.
And I did that, and I was planning to do it again this year, which I still hope to do. So I do have through that some contacts with Dana-Farber. Some of their doctors are on my cycling team, and the people that I ride with know the president of Dana-Farber and all that. So I could probably get in there without too much effort if I wanted to.
Well, we can get you into Dana-Farber if you wanted to be treated there, and we know a bunch of very good docs at Dana-Farber. But it's a question of we've got Dana-Farber docs, genitourinary medical oncologists on our advisory board. We've got great relationships with a whole bunch of them, but then it means if you want them as your quarterback, we can certainly help you. And I'm familiar, by the way, with the Mass General ride. And by the way, tell your friend we have a really good blood cancer group with a bunch of people that have had bone marrow transplants. FYI on the side.
I will. So I have a house in southern Maine, which is probably 2 hours from Boston. So I mean that is an option. If you think I can get better treatment there, I'm more than willing to work that as well. So that's an option.
I think what I'd say to you is this, because I mean I know that there are probably a choice of 4 or 5 different docs that we would suggest you see at Dana-Farber, and most of them know us pretty well, and we really trust all of them. But what I think I would do in the interest of time is try and get an appointment with Dr. With Channing Pala, and see how you like it.
How do you spell that? I'm sorry.
What I'll do you know where the chat window are the 2 little boxes at the top?
Got it.
And I will give me a second and I'll put a link to her in the chat window for you.
Okay, thank you.
And I think if I were you down there, so it doesn't get, I mean, and then if you're not happy and you want to bring in somebody from Dana-Farber, it's easy for us to do that. It may be easy for you too, but you don't know the docs. We do know the docs, so we could give you a list of docs. But these docs are such that if we say to them, "Can you see so and so quickly? Something's coming back," most of them will respond that they're really respectful to referrals they get from us. Not always, but most of the time. And Channing Pala, by the way, did a webinar for us last year. So let me put that in. And I just want to ask, I feel, anybody who is seeing Dr. Aragon Chang or Dr. Dawson or who's on the call, please feel free to take issue with me. I don't get offended. So we've got a bunch of people that are seeing other genitourinary medical oncologists on this call. Please speak up, Gary Peters or Richard Craymond or anybody else that's in the Delmarva area that's seeing a doc.
Well, while we're thinking about that, Jim, I just want to welcome you to group. My name is John. You're at a particularly sensitive and somewhat controversial time right now. We very much want to have a good PSMA study to find out what your next radiation treatment should be. We very much want to have a genetic study to find out if you have anything that would be particularly responsive to a particular gene mutation. But at the same time, we don't want you to have treatment that's unnecessary. So it's particularly tricky right now between not having a PSA high enough to get a really good sensitivity out of a PET scan, but yet at the same time wanting to get your treatment underway while you're still below 0.25, if that holds up to further research so that you get more longevity out of it. So I hope you come back. We're going to be really interested in who you end up with, what your PET scan shows, if your next PSA shows an increasing trajectory, and what you decide to do next.
Well, given my druthers, I'd want to go ride the Pan Mass Challenge without having to worry about any kind of treatment. And my wife and I have our 32nd anniversary. We're doing a big bike ride out in Oregon in September, so I'd like to do that too. And so hopefully I can just kind of put this off until, October or November. But if I can't, I can't. I'll do what's best for my long-term health.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue there is to get the input of a reliable GU medical oncologist. That's exactly where you need the input. And I've put Dr. Palla's information in there. I mean, if you want, we can suggest a couple of docs at Dana-Farber too, immediately, and get their input. I would say that, I mean, it might be possible. I mean, it might be possible to put off treatment till the summer. I mean, it really depends on what shows up on a PSMA scan and when you can get a result. I think that's the big issue.
I just got one last quick thing I say about Hopkins. Remember, I suggested Hopkins, and you said you have problems there. But I forgot, of course, that Sibley. I should know this since I live here and I've been treated there. That Sibley is owned and operated by Hopkins, and so Channing Power is a Johns Hopkins doctor as well. It's basically kind of the same thing in a way. The Sibley was bought by them some time ago.
Yep.
Yeah, you'll see in the chat window that Palla has a Hopkins medicine address.
Yep.
Any other questions for?
I posted the
Jim?
link to getting a free genetic test in the chat window.
Okay, so we actually don't use that link.
Yeah,
Jeff?
I don't have the other one, and
Okay, well, I'll put the other one in right now. But Dr. Palla is one of the principal investigators for this free test. And the reason we use the other link is because after she did the webinar for us, she gave us our own link so they can track people back to ANCAN, and I'll put that link in for you. And you can move along on that yourself with even before you get an appointment with her, and then you can tell her you're part of her promise test and you'll get brownie points for that.
When you go through the question and answer, do not request your doctor be involved. Otherwise, they won't send you the thing that you do a spit test with. They have to do a lot of other stuff. So if you mistakenly do that, then it doesn't give you that option for them to send you just the tube that you return. By the way, your tests are every 3 months. And because even though you have a fast doubling, how long has it been since your last PSA test?
2 weeks.
Because it isn't increasing that. Well, it'd be interesting to see how fast it's increasing. But what Rick was talking about, that's definitely a factor, how quickly your rate
Yeah,
is
no, it went from
doubling.
0.05 to 0.14 in 3 months. So it went up pretty fast.
Yeah, it tripled. But that's why get back to it.
Well, it did triple, but don't put a lot of weight at that very low end. Going from 0.04 to 0.15 is not the same as going from 3 to 9.
Yep. Understood. Thank you. It's good to keep in mind.
All right, Jim, any other questions?
No, this has been very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll see you next week as well.
Jim, are you in our database, or does Jimmy
Yes.
have your? You are.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Fine.
Okay, Peter Kafka has to leave soon, so I want to just give him a minute to give us an update. Go ahead, Peter.
Okay, well, I did a blood test yesterday, and the good news is that my PSA is moving in the right direction. It's heading down instead of up. 3 weeks ago, it was heading up a little bit, and I was a little bit nervous, but as I'm not going to go through the whole thing with you guys, but I'm one of those guys who, we keep telling people to get a genetic test, get a germline test. And I'm one of those guys that did it a number of years ago, and now I'm on a immunotherapy that's targeted for my specific situation. And lo and behold, it's working. And the name of the game for me is patience. Don't jump to conclusions by looking at things moving in the wrong direction or this and that. Yes, I've got some side effects. Most of them are GI tract intestinal stuff, and I've got to watch my pancreatic numbers, my amylase and lipase numbers, but they're not out of line too much. And so I think I can deal with the side effects, and the trade-off is that, hey, I'm finally on a treatment that seems to be headed the right direction. So I go for number 9 infusion on Friday, and who knows? As far as I know, I'm just going to keep riding this out as long as my insurance keeps paying for it, and as long as the side effects don't get me too crazy. I do notice a new side effect, and that's a pretty extensive dry mouth. Um, I don't know if it's salivary glands or what, but I might give Bob G a call and talk to him, because I think he did Keytruda too. I was thinking of it, and he might have some expertise on dry mouth. Anyway, that's where I am.
Yeah,
So,
Peter, do you
Peter,
want
what
to
was
share with
the
us?
PSA move?
Yes.
Wait, say that again. I missed the
What
two people
was the
talking.
PSA drop?
It was 1.79 yesterday. 3 weeks ago, it was 2.89. Several months ago, it was 1.92. So it's been moving in the right direction
Great.
now.
And what do you do? Do you do anything to manage the GI side effects?
Sit on the toilet more often.
No Imodium or anything like that?
They want me to do that. I don't like ammonium. I don't know. It wasn't. I remember that from surgery years ago, and I don't do well with that stuff.
Yeah. That'll give you more dry mouth.
Yeah.
Just by the way, Dr. Bob has been kind enough to offer to help anybody with oral side effects from their cancer. So I know he's not on today because he's on vacation and sort of part vacation, part babysitting in New Orleans. He's down there with his son and grandchildren. But do definitely call him Peter. He's
Sure.
offered to help people.
Yeah, we're good. We're good friends. I'll get in touch with him.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Glad to hear the good news. Feel free to leave whenever you need to.
Okay.
And let us next go to Norm Pollock, and then after Norm, we'll go to Rich Jackson. Go ahead, Norm.
So I'm on the Orgovix and the Nubeqa for 5.5 months now. Don't like these side effects at all. Been looking at some of the studies and wondering if you guys know of any of the studies. I mean,
You're muted now, Norm.
there we go. It did it on its own. Where did we? So I've been looking at studies and trying to figure out whether to just do the 6 months or stay the 2 years. What do you guys think?
What was your Gleason score?
9, 4 plus 5.
It's usually best to go long rather than short.
No, man.
Sorry to tell
I'm
you.
lucky to get like 4 hours, 5 hours of sleep a night because I wake up in a sweat and man. I hate whining with some of you guys. You've been through a lot worse, but this still isn't any fun.
And have you tried any of the mitigation efforts for the hot flashes?
Everything I've read said they really don't work that well, and that and then you end up with more side effects.
Right.
What about the Ember Wave? I think Jeff Markey's a big champion of that. Maybe a few
Yeah.
other guys.
I don't really have hot flashes. I break out in a sweat, and I mean I can feel it coming on, and I've got about 30 to 45 seconds to get my clothes off, or they're soaking wet, and I can't get them off. My wife has to peel them off.
It does have an all-night mode that can work with that, but
No,
I'll tell you, if you're having a really serious problem, and I used to have to change my sheets an awful lot, and then I get a Depo-Provera shot every 3 months, and it almost ends everything. It really, and then anything left, the Ember Wave covers. But for me, the Depo-Provera shot, I got one for 6 months in a row. I quit last month. I'm using the Ember. I'm getting a maximum of 2 or 3 flashes a day. Once they calm down after using the Depo-Provera, the Ember can then take over and handle the small hot flashes you get. But it's worth at least looking at that or other similar medicines. But I know that works for me, and I for 4 years I got a shot every 3 months, and then the Ember Wave came out, and I didn't need it anymore.
Yeah, I tried the Ember Wave. It didn't work at all for me. It just
because they're too intense, and that's why. That's why you got to talk to your doctor about Depo-Provera or something similar. I personally have had 0 side effects from it after, as I said, I was taken for 4 years. And it does take, when you first start, it may take up to 10 days before it takes effect. And then it just cuts everything out, just about. What are you on? Are you on Lupron or something else?
Orgovix and
Orgovix.
darolutamide.
All right. So the other people here might have other solutions. That's one that I know absolutely works. I was getting as many as 24 hot flashes a day at one point, and it just stopped them.
Yeah, I had 18 the other day. It's like, man, oh man.
Yeah, you talk to your doctor. That will
Yeah.
stop it.
Norm,
And
it's
Norm,
John.
also, if
I've,
if your quality of life is suffering that much, talk to your doctor also about trying Nubeqa monotherapy and just dropping the Orgovyx. See what they say.
Okay.
I've also
Norm,
tried acupuncture, and acupuncture does work to an extent. So that's something you might want to consider.
Okay. I remember you talking about it. I don't more appointments.
yeah. Norm, is this your first time on hormone therapy? I'm sorry, I forgot.
Yeah, yeah, it is my first time.
Oh, okay.
I started it in November. So
Yep.
and then and did my radiation therapy. Finished that up the last day of January. So
So Norm, here's what I would say. Whoever it was just now, I think it was Len, who suggested monotherapy darolutamide. That's a really solid suggestion that, given that your main doc is Dr. E, she may
yeah,
well buy off on that. And I'd
okay.
also talk to Dr. E about what she thinks you might want to do and how she feels about Depo-Provera or Megastrol,
Right.
because those treatments are controversial. They work. They work very well for Jeff Marchi, but they're controversial. And I think that in Dr. E, you have somebody who's very open-minded and willing to work with you, but also really knowledgeable about the options. And so that my first stop after getting off this call would be to write to Dr. E and say, the guys wondered if we could talk about monotherapy, darolutamide, or what do you suggest to help me, because it's really impacting my quality of life.
Yeah,
Would
it
I
really has. I mean, yeah.
would I do 6 months? I mean, people have heard me on here. If it was me, I would definitely not do 6 months. But there are a lot of doctors who think that 6 months is now sufficient based on that last study. But
Well,
we've
that's
just seen
yeah. That's why I was
we've
wondering
seen
what you
too
guys thought
many
about the study.
people we've seen too many people come back, and then when they come back, it's out of hand and not controllable.
Yeah, I mean, I want to control it first off. I mean, if this is what I got to do, this is what I got to do. But I'm hoping I don't. So, yeah, I just read one where it was a question and answer from Europe, and Dr. E was on it, and they asked 100, and one of them was, how long do you do guys with, you know, prostatectomy with biochemical recurrence and then radiation, and half of them said 6 months, and half of them said 2 years. And then they
Wow.
talked about a little study, and one of the studies was that, yeah, you get your cancer free longer doing the 2 years, but the overall survival wasn't any longer. Who knows? That's why I'm wondering if.
Well, you see, one of the problems with the overall survival is we don't have the longitude in these numbers yet. We
All
just
right,
don't have the longitude. We haven't tried. We don't know.
too new
I
a
would
drug.
hazard a guess that Dr. E was one of the people that said 2 years.
Yeah, yeah. I'll talk to her. I just wondering, like, say, mostly if there was any other studies I could read before I talked to her, if anybody knew of any. So,
Well, there's loads
oh,
of them out there. There's some that say 18 months versus
yeah.
36 months, 4 months versus 28 months.
Well, yeah.
There's loads of them. And I remember Mac Roach said to me, pick your flavor. It doesn't matter, whatever we say, there's always going to be another study that says something different. But my own experience, I'm not a doc, but anecdotally, is longer than better than shorter. Hey, Jim Ward's on. Jim Ward's listening into this. And Jim, How many times did we go around this loop, this track, in terms of how long you stayed on? You remember, don't you?
Of course I do. I was never really trying to shorten it up too much. I was willing to listen to what the experts had to say, and in my case, consistent with what Rick is suggesting, my main GU med onc at MD Anderson in Houston, and as well as my rad onc down there, both supported staying on it for 2 years, and so that's what I did, and it worked out well for me. I mean, it went down to undetectable, and I've been on a drug holiday for just over 2 years now, after doing 2 years of ADT. So it wasn't any fun, but I stuck it out for as long as they recommended.
Yeah, I'll pretty much do what they say. I just wondering what some of the consensus was.
I don't want to slow us down, but I was kind of curious why you had radiation, then hormone therapy, rather than the other way
Well, no, I
around.
started the hormone. No, I had the hormone therapy started in November, and about the middle of November, and I started radiation therapy in December.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood.
And I was already, like, say, those drugs work. Like, say, I went from over 700 to less than 3 on my testosterone in 3 weeks. So, I mean, it's like somebody punched you, or like you hit a wall, one of the two. So, but Jim, I was right where you're at now, Jim. It was a year to the day we're sitting there, and then Doc goes, the rad onc goes, so when did you have your prostatectomy? I looked at I said, today, a year ago. So, yeah. Good luck. Okay, thanks.
All right, Norm, thank you. And we'll go to Rich Jackson, who we don't hear from very often. So we're listening intently, Rich.
As I've mentioned a while back, I'm in a clinical trial for Pluvicto for earlier introduction to see how that works. Tomorrow would have been the 4th cycle on 6-week cycles up until the liver enzymes hit the ALT/SGPT hit 290 and the AST/SGOT hit 76 yesterday, which is far enough out of band that the Pluvicto has been placed on hold. Doing Delegrex shots monthly and Erlita. The Erlita has been placed on hold until it stabilizes. They're contacting my gastro doc, and I don't know, they're going to read the chicken bone, shoot shit, cut cards, whatever they want to do, and see if they can determine who's responsible for what.
Yeah.
The normal on the SGPT is 5 to 49, and mine's 290.
Yeah, there's definitely some liver tox going on there. Sometimes that will reverse itself when you stop whatever's causing it. And so it sounds like a good idea that they're stopping the Erlita and the Pluvicto, see which one is the culprit, I guess. But it's not uncommon that those elevated enzymes will reverse and go back down to normal. Anybody else want to comment on Rich?
How are your blood counts? Your blood markers, Rich?
They've always been low.
Are they lower than they have been?
Yeah, white blood cell is 2.0. Red blood cell is 3.49. Hemoglobin, HGB is 11. HCT is 33.3.
What about the platelets, Rich?
Let's see. PLT is 125.
Okay, not
Decent.
bad.
Yeah, some of those are fairly decent. Dr. John, what are your thoughts on this?
I agree with what Len says. In fact, I would even go further to say that the likelihood of stopping the causative agent and then having the liver inflammation go down is very good. Unless there's an underlying infection like hepatitis C, I see no reason why your liver won't recover if the offending drug is removed.
Well, the only issue I see is stopping Erleada and Pluvicto. They don't know which one may be causing it.
Well, what might happen is that in the future, when your numbers are under 100, hopefully, you'll have a discussion about whether to reintroduce one or the other of the drugs.
Well, they're planning on either later this week or early next week do another draw and see how the comparison goes from yesterday. Give it a week to 10 days and do a comparison draw to see what's up.
Good.
So the only thing that's actually going to make an effect is the Erleada, because it was at the end of cycle. Tomorrow would have been the fourth infusion. So we're at the end of cycle for the Pluvicto. But we'll see what happens.
Has
Well,
anybody else on the call had significantly elevated liver enzymes that they can relate to this? No? Okay.
Rich, how long were you on Erleada?
Erleada started the 20th of December with the first cycle for Pluvicto. The Delegrex started middle of October for the first shot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tease out which one it might be. So, like John said, it's best they stop both and reintroduce one at a time after your levels go down.
With the clinical trial. Sorry?
When was the last agarelix shot?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Okay.
So basically it's 6 months, a little over 6 months of the Garelix, about 4 months, a little over 4 months of Erleada and Pluvicto.
Just for everybody, in case you're not familiar, dagarelix is the same as Firmagon, and Erleada is apalutamide.
Firmagon is named by hostile feminist nurse as Hard On No More.
Firmagon.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. J. Mr. J, did you bring back a trophy?
You have to have sufficient balance to bring home trophies in the games I play in. So not this time.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, Rich, thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
And let us know when those enzymes start coming down.
Yeah. How are you
Um,
feeling? You know, we didn't ask you. How are you feeling with this crappy liver?
No worse or no better than the last 6 months, and basically like
Okay.
shit.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
But nothing definitive to say, my eyes aren't turning yellow. There's no jaundice.
Okay.
No worse, no better than last month or the month before or the month before.
Yeah.
They don't drink at these motorcycle events, do they?
Oh, heaven forbid. We just have naked ladies, but it's not a boondoggle.
Touche again.
And the scenery was very good.
Oh, good. You didn't send pictures though, you know. Here we are. We're all standing in, working hard for you at the at Men Speaking Freely last week, which was a fabulous Men Speaking Freely, by the way. But we thought we were going to get a couple of pictures, Mr. J.
We're even tighter than Vegas.
Okay.
All right. Let us go to Herb Courtney. Herb, we can't hear you.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, just briefly, I just got my first prescription for darolutamide late last evening, so I started it then and did my 2 tablets this morning, and that's in conjunction with Lupron. So we'll see. I've got a regular appointment with my local oncologist in about 2 weeks. So we'll check the PSA because I restarted that Lupron about 3 weeks ago. And then I've got another appointment with my GU med-onc at UCLA in July. So hopefully between the two of them, we'll keep my PSA down because, you know, I don't generate any PSMA, so the scans don't find anything. But Rettig, my GU med-onc, is convinced that I have non-metastatic, non-castration resistant cancer. So at my age, I'll be happy if we can just keep it under 1. And the other good news is the darolutamide. I have great insurance, and I got a 90-day supply, which supposedly they say costs $9,900, and I pay $0. Can't get better than that.
Good.
Yeah, that's great. How do you feel on the Darrow? Do you feel fatigue?
On what?
Darolutamide?
Oh, on the Darrow. Well, I like I said, I just started to take. I took the first 2 tablets last night, and then 2 more this morning because I'm to take 2 twice a day. But so far, absolutely nothing. But you know, it's a little early. But my Rettig is convinced, or at least he's very, very optimistic that this will have a lot less side effects than I had with the enzalutamide. And so I'm happy.
And we're happy too. Any questions for Herb?
Yeah, who's your insurance carrier to get the freebies on the darolutamide?
Yeah, it's insurance that my wife had when she was a school teacher. And we actually, some years ago, I thought it was too costly, and we went to a consultant, and she looked at everything. And my wife's got Parkinson's and had at that time. I didn't have the prostate cancer at the time, and anyway, the consultant said, well, you know, you might save $100 a month, but if I changed, but she said, don't you dare switch your wife, because she said nobody can touch your prescription coverage. And my wife takes some meds for the PD that are up in the $30,000 a month, 90 days range, and we pay $0 for that as well.
Does she work for the state or federal government?
I'm not hearing anything. Oh, it was the city unified school district in Ventura, California. And
Yeah, yeah.
the
I find
insurance
that.
is just phenomenal.
Yeah,
Not cheap, but phenomenal.
yeah. They usually have the best insurance.
But when you got a $30,000 for 3 months medication, it's way more than pays for itself. That's all I've got
Okay.
to bring you up to
Thank
date
you,
on.
Herb. Let's see. How about we go to Steve Waite?
All right, thank you. I have a comment and a question. The comment, I want to emphasize that the genetic testing not only is beneficial to you, but it can be beneficial to your children as well, because I share the same BRCA2 variant that my sister and her daughter, both breast cancer survivors, and our mother was an ovarian cancer. She died of ovarian cancer. My oldest daughter was able to get genetic testing, and it was found out that she has the same variant, and therefore they are recommending that she have an oophorectomy uh, by the time she's 40, because again, ovarian cancer is so hard uh, to find, and they put her on a twice a year OBGYN regimen. So it's not only going to benefit you, it can benefit your children as well. So that's my comment. And then my question is, 2 or 3 meetings ago, someone made the statement that like only 15% of the recurrence happens in the prostate bed. And my question is, were you referencing a study? And if so, could you post the link to that study in the chat window? And that's it. And thank you all very much.
I'm the one who told you that. And I can't reference a study that was just quoted to me by Peter Carroll, the chairman of the department at University of California in San Francisco. And I respected him. He said these are more recent studies. Now that the PSMA scans are available, they're able to change the statistics over the past few years compared to the old statistics where it was 33% being in the prostatic bed and pelvic bed. So that's just what he told me. I have no papers, nothing to document it.
Okay. Thank you, Jack.
Any how about our brains trust? Any input from Ben or from Len or from Dr. John on that?
Well,
On that
personally,
study?
I'm really glad that Steve brought that question up again. Not that I have any input as far as new studies or anything, but I sure have a lot of interest in that question. I'm glad it got brought up.
Yeah, I heard the same thing Jack heard, and I don't have a reference for you, Steve, but I heard that the recurrence rate in the prostate bed is very low. I don't remember the exact statistic, but 10, 15% sounds familiar. But again, I'm sorry I don't have the reference. Maybe I can find something.
Okay, I see my GU med-onc tomorrow, and that's one of the questions on my agenda for him.
Oh,
So
good. Let us know what they say.
I will. Thank you.
So you're
So,
BRCA positive. Are you on a PARP inhibitor?
No, I'm not. Right now, all I've been treating, or I had Leuprolide or Lupron in August. That was a 6 month. It has exhausted itself, of course, and so my PSA Monday, because I always get my blood work done 2 days before I see my med-onc, was 0.180. And 2 months ago to the day, it was 0.060. So I think it's time for, because right now, and this is my choice, we just want to treat it with hormone therapy. Now, he may recommend or suggest something else tomorrow, but that he's I'm ready to have the next shot. So,
Couple of things I'd like to say. Stay away from the 6-month shots, Stephen.
okay.
Um,
Okay.
go if he's going to leave you on Lupron, go with a 3-month or a 4-month, because our experience has been that in some men they don't work that well at the back end of the 6 months. We've seen guys on 6-month shots whose testosterone has risen significantly in that during the 6th month. So we tend to say, look, why take the risk? Just go with a shorter shot. So that's one thing. Secondly, it's good practice on your part when you walk in to see your doc. If you have your questions written down, to hand him a copy as well as keeping a copy for yourself. That way, you're going to be sure that everything you have on there will get answered, because he has to put that piece of paper in your chart, and he doesn't want to take a chance. Now, if you're holding the piece of paper, he can say, "Oh, I got to go. I've got another patient." But if he has that paper, or if you provided the questions before, so they're already in your chart, then you're going to get everything answered. So those are just a couple of little tips. The other thing that occurs to me, and I don't know how well, I mean, I did look up your guys, John Hennigan.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Not that he lists GU, but his CV doesn't really back that up. So he has an interest, but it's not like he studied anywhere. I don't know if anybody has done monotherapy PARP inhibitors. I do know who to ask about the value of monotherapy PARP inhibitors. We have somebody on our advisory board who's the co-director of the BRCA Institute at the BRCA Research Institute at UCSF. And I think she probably might have an opinion, or if she doesn't, she could talk to somebody. But I wonder if you have BRCA, if you carry BRCA as you do, and we know the PARP is going to be effective for you, we know it. To what extent a PARP might be a way of controlling the cancer without suffering the side effects of the hormone therapy? And I would pose that question.
Okay. And Rick, so you've clarified my question. So it would be PARP, not in addition to, but in substitute of the hormone shot. Is that correct?
Right. And he's
Okay.
probably going to roll his eyes and say, "Oh, absolutely not." But then you've got to push him, because this is, it's the same way we said to Norm earlier on. If you talk to Dr. E, she's more likely to go with a monotherapy darolutamide. I mean, the more sophisticated, smarter docs are more willing to consider that. The ones who don't see a lot of this, they're not. So asking, for example, Dr. E about monotherapy PARP inhibitors, you probably get a strong, reliable answer. That said, when you ask the people that don't have that much experience, they're likely to say, well, no, that's not recommended. It's not in the guidelines. The guidelines say you should be treated with a PARP inhibitor, but only with, I think the NCCN guidelines suggest it along with an LHRH, I think, but I'm not 100% certain. But the fact is that you have to push them on that. And it might well be worth even, you're somewhere way down south, Alabama or Mississippi. Right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was close.
No, you're
Right.
good. You're good.
It may well be worth your while taking a run over to Houston Methodist and having a discussion with Dr. E about monotherapy PARP inhibitors.
Okay.
I think isn't the reason for trying to get away isn't the reason for trying to be on hormone therapy rather than PARP inhibitors that I wish Peter was still on. I don't see his picture. Isn't it as obnoxious as ADT is? Isn't being on a PARP inhibitor more obnoxious than being on hormone therapy?
I don't know. I don't think so, but I do know that being on a PARP inhibitor can definitely have adverse effects on your blood count. And when you're on LHRH and a PARP inhibitor, it can be an issue. But I don't know enough. But between, say Dr. E and Dr. Pamela, who I'm trying to foster some exchanges between, it might be a very interesting conversation. I've never seen it. It's not something I'm familiar with. I don't know anybody who's done it. But it might be a real interesting discussion and to see what they say. But you'd have to have that discussion with somebody who's really knowledgeable, which is why I say Dr. E. And then, of course, whilst Dr. Pamela is not a GU med onc, she's basically a breast med onc. She does treat a lot of different cancers for people, other cancers like pancreatic, where people have a BRCA mutation, and so she's really knowledgeable in that area.
Okay, because I know with the ADT therapy, I only really had hot flashes and then every 7 to 10 days a bout of insomnia. So I got a lot of reading done on that 7 to 10 day, but the hot flashes I didn't find to be
Okay.
too offensive. So
Well, I mean, if you tolerated it well,
and
that's
I'm still going to ask about the PARP inhibitor, and I appreciate your
okay.
suggesting that. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I want to comment here. The side effects of PARP inhibitors are typically worse than hormone therapy. Like
Okay.
Rick mentioned, the suppression of bone marrow, your white counts, your red blood cells, nausea, weakness, fatigue, loss of appetite. There's a lot of side effects to the PARP inhibitors for sure. And I wanted
Okay.
to ask Ben, the paper that you surfaced recently, Ben, about PARP inhibitors being primarily effective for BRCA mutations, but not so much the other DDR mutations. Didn't they recommend that hormone therapy be used with PARP inhibitors?
So it said a couple of things. It was saying that no, it said that PARP monotherapy has proved itself, and that they were speculating that if you included these anti-androgens, that it would be that much better, that there would be synergistic effects, but none were observed. It also said that
Okay.
I actually had a question about the 15% number. I had a stupid question, which is, how would you know?
Hold on. Have we just reverted back to the prostate bed?
Yes.
Okay. Can we stick on one thing at a time, and then we'll come back to you on the 15%? So what you're saying is that paper did contemplate monotherapy olaparib or rucaparib for people with a BRCA mutation.
Now, my understanding is that simply having a BRCA mutation doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to benefit from a PARP inhibitor. You still have one allele. That's good if you have a germline mutation. So they have to establish that the other allele has been lost.
Right.
So, the cancer has to be driven by HRR deficiency. It can't just be any prostate cancer. So just because you
Right.
have um, a germline mutation doesn't necessarily mean you can benefit from PARP. Now,
So
one thing they mentioned in passing was that As I understood it, people who developed PARP as a somatic mutation did better. I'm sorry, people who developed HRR loss as a somatic mutation did better than people who had a germline mutation and lost one.
Right. But when they ran Profound and Triton, did they run it with ADT or did they run it monotherapy? Anybody know? I'd have to go back and do some research. Where's Herbie? God rest his soul when we need him.
Rick, I don't know for sure, but I would guess that they were on ADTs, but because when you're running a experimental drug, you still want the standard of care therapy.
In the control. Yep.
Yeah. So I imagine it was they were on ADT.
I'm pretty certain that it was Lupron plus either olaparib or rucaparib. I'm not 100% certain, but I tend to agree with you, Len. So.
All right. Oh, go ahead, Rick.
I just want to, if we're done with talking about the PARPs, can we just come back to Ben's question?
Sure.
Ben, go ahead. Repeat it. You're muted.
So maybe there's an obvious answer, but I've always wondered when people make that assertion, how would they know? How would they know that there's only 15% in the prostate bed?
It's usually retrospective analysis of data. You've probably seen the SEER database, SEER, which is a database of all Medicare, Medicaid patients. They mine that data like crazy, and they get all kinds of stats from it. I'm guessing that's where they got that information. I don't know. What do you think, Jack or John?
See, and I think it's not 15% of the cancers in the prostate bed. It's just in 15% of patients, it's recurring in the prostate bed.
Yeah.
Right.
No. What he said to me, the detectability with the new scans is showing that 15% end up in the prostate bed or pelvic fossa because they're able now to see the periphery much more easily and at an earlier stage where they see metastatic lesions outside that in the past they were not able to see outside. That's what Peter told me. Okay, he said years ago they didn't have the equipment to be able to make that conclusion. Now they're able to make that conclusion statistically. I'm looking on Google Scholar right now, and I'm trying to see where this is cited, if anywhere. But this is just what he told me is evidence they're compiling in California that's reached this conclusion. But I have no data, and I'm just looking right now on Google Scholar.
And this, of course, is a blanket assertion that covers all Gleason grades, all PSAs, all kinds of cancer. It's like the answer is 42. The answer is 15%. I find these things very quotable and very suspect.
Okay. Give Peter Carroll a call. Or write him an email. Maybe he'll come on and talk about it. I mean, you know him, Rick? Maybe he'll
come. Very well. I mean, I'm not quite as cynical as Ben. I mean, I think what happens is they run these PSMA scans extensively when they're doing trials like Osprey or Falcon. I always get them confused. And so he sees many PSMA scans in that Falcon trial. And on average, he's saying on all of those Falcon trials, only 15% showed up in the PSMA, in the prostate bed. Now, could it be that they all had different Gleasons and everything else? Yeah, it could be. It probably was. At the same time, somebody like Peter Carrot has looked at more PSMA scans than most of us have had hot dinners. So he's in a position to say something like that because, you know, he was a PI on those trials.
I think
But
he knows exactly what he's talking about, but that, like a game of telephone, a lot of this has been lost in translation.
Yeah, yeah, it might be because all of post RP salvage radiation therapy is based on the idea that the remaining cancer is, if not in the prostate, but at least in the pelvis.
wouldn't they have to compare, like, my PSA was 0.2 when I went, and maybe the other guy that's going for his PSMA PET CT is 2 or 3 or 4. So wouldn't it be in different areas then too? I mean,
Well, I mean that's what Ben is saying, that it's
yeah.
too rough a number, and people with higher PSAs when they get scanned should be treated differently. But what we're hearing is that overall, just overall, most of the uh, uh, cancer that recurs is beyond the prostate bed. It may well be that of the guys who came in with a PSA and got scanned with a PSA of less than 0.5, 100% of them were in the prostate bed and everybody else had it outside. We don't know, but he's just saying, look, I looked at X thousand PSMA scans and overall that's what I saw. But Ben, you know, Ben is right in the sense that it could be, and maybe there will be a paper coming out. And he
Well,
should
I was just
feel
going to say
free
then
to
that,
write to Dr. Carroll and ask him.
yeah, and that scares guys like Jim and me, but maybe not as fearful for a guy that's got a PSA of 5 when he went for his SMA. So I understand where Ben's at. It makes it kind of scary.
Okay, guys, can we move on to Mark Baldrich?
Oh, hi. Thank you. Yes, I'm Mark, and I've been on the ANCAN conversation before. So maybe I could just give you some quick highlights. I'm 67, and I was diagnosed with a Gleason 9. I had a prostatectomy. It was discovered that it was like extra capsule, and I had some other adverse effects when the tumor was analyzed. I then had 37, so 6 weeks after my prostatectomy, I had PSA of 0.65. And then I had 37 radiation treatments, and I had 18 months of ADT. And I've been PSA free for 16 months until my test last week, and my PSA was very low at 0.04, but nonetheless, there's prostate cancer somewhere in my body. So the first thing I did, I've got this results yesterday. I contacted, I was going to see Dr. Evan Yu at Seattle Cancer Care Alliance, now Fred Hutch, but I was told that he's offloading his clinical patients to focus more on administrative tasks. So I'm going to be assigned a new GU, medical oncologist at Fred Hutch.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have several questions, like Rick was saying. I'm aware that a PSMA test is not going to be appropriate until the PSA would get higher. But I guess what I'm wondering is, like, it's been 8 months since my ADT ended, which was Firmagon, and 9 months since my last testosterone test, which was very low at 10. So I guess I'm kind of wondering, I'd like to be proactive, and I'm wondering, until I get this appointment with my GU, medical oncologist, should I think about immediately going back on Firmagon? Do we know if I'm castration resistant, or it's no? Can we say that?
Okay,
I guess we don't.
let me stop you and put your mind at rest, because there's a lot of
Okay.
anxiety going on here, and there's
Yes.
a whole bunch of things. First of all,
Yeah.
why are you so sure you have cancer in your body?
Well, I guess I assumed that I was previously, my PSA was undetectable at less than 0.02, and now the fact that it's 0.04 tells me that something very small is going on, and I'm afraid it's going to blow up and become something big, because I was a Gleason 9 and so forth.
Okay, it's possible. But the other thing is that we know these tests are not that reliable at this very low level, and there could be a trace of prostate tissue left from your original surgery. That's a possibility that we don't know yet, because we haven't seen it. Now, if you wait a few months, say you wait 3 more months or 2 more months, and you go from 0.04 to 0.1, then you're probably right. But first of all, I want to encourage you not to jump to conclusions. Okay? Secondly, in order to be able to determine where this is coming from, we probably need to let the PSA rise a little bit and see if we can see where it's at. So to jump right in again and suppress it, you're never going to know where it's coming from.
Okay.
So we've got to let it rise. Thirdly, rather than letting SCCA assign you a GU, let's give you a couple of names that you can ask for that we
Okay.
know are decent. Okay. So the first name that we'd suggest is Dr. Schweitzer.
Okay.
Michael Schweitzer, he's Pat Martin's. Pat isn't on today, but he's Pat Martin's doc. He's good. He's done webinars for us. Second name is Heather Chen, who happens to be Dr. Palla's associate principal investigator on the PROMISE trial. She's really good. I don't know much about Nelson's, Peter Nelson's clinical practice. I think he may just be doing research. But those are two names. Those are two names that come to mind right off the top of my head that we think are solid docs, and we've gotten good reports on them from other men.
Okay. Okay.
Mark,
Thank you.
Mark, this is John. I just wanted to add, I'm in have been also like you reached a non-detectable and are watching out for recurrences. I know what my doctor would do in the situation you're in. He would not do anything at all until the PSA reached 0.2.
Okay.
And he would just tell me to not even think about it until we got to that point.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have
Mark,
any other?
Did you tell us that Evan Yu is no longer seeing patients? Did I miss that?
Right. He's offloading his clinical patients. I was just told today that he's focusing more on administrative tasks. And they have five GU medical oncologists right now, so they'd be down one. But apparently they're hiring a new doc that's going to start sometime in September, October.
Okay, well, do you know who the fourth? I know you, Heather Chen, Michael Schweitzer. Do you know who the other one is?
There's a Greek doctor, Dr. Petros. I think it's like Grievous.
No, don't know him.
And then there's
Don't
one
know.
other that I'm not sure of.
Okay. But try and get in to see Chen or Schweitzer. We can
Okay.
could almost certainly help you with Dr. Schweitzer. We might be able to help you with Dr. Chen. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But see if you can get in to see one of those two. You know, and if
Okay.
you have, they're different personalities. They're both really good. If you want to get a feel for Dr. Schweitzer, look at the webinar that he did for us or seminar that he did for us. It was actually for the active surveillance people, low risk active surveillance people, because he did a bunch of work on using enzalutamide as a treatment for men with low risk active surveillance. But you'll get a sense of him and see if you like him if you go to our website, put in Schweitzer. I'll try and find it and put it in the chat window for you, Mark.
Thank you. Rick, have you heard of a Dr. Zhao at Swedish? He's a GU
Yes.
medical oncologist. What would you recommend him
Yeah.
also?
I think I preferred to see Schweitzer or Chen.
Okay.
But yes, we've known people that have seen him. I want to say that Pat Martin saw him first, but I'm not sure. I need to
Okay.
look.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, can I interrupt for a moment? Stan Friedman wanted some time tonight, but he just left. Oh well. Okay. He said it's his birthday, so at least we could have wished him a happy birthday. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead, guys. I interrupted someone.
So that's Heather Cheng with a G.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Okay, so Zhao, it was Zhao treated Calvanzi, who we lost in January. You know, I don't know. I was never super impressed.
Okay.
But
That's helpful.
I knew he treated one of our guys. All right, let me see if I can find that webinar with Schweitzer to give you a feel.
Thanks.
Okay, how
Now,
about
guys,
Alan?
can I just say, when you ask for time, if you do have a time limitation, please tell us, because that way we can work with you. And we don't like to see people leave who we didn't get to. But if we don't know that you got to leave, it makes it difficult for the mods. Like Peter said to us, he's got to go early, so at least we know and we can work around that.
Well, in this case, Rick, Stan actually told me to put him at the end.
Yeah, he did.
So,
You're right. I heard
yeah.
him.
All right. Alan C., are you still with us? No?
Yes.
Maybe not.
Yes,
Oh,
I
there
am.
you are.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, I just had a second PYLARIFY PSMA scan March 15th, 6 months after my first one, which was July of 22. The first scan showed that there was uptake in the left apex of the prostate. That time the PSA was 0.95. This latest one, now the PSA has risen to 2.21, doubling time about 4.5 months. It shows that the original uptake area has become much larger and more intense. SUV last time was 20.2, now it's up to 25.5. Additionally, there's a new area of uptake on the right side, uptake of 5.6. Now, I consulted with a gynecologist for the second time, as well as a Bob Smith from Sloan Kettering on treatment possibilities. And basically, Geinesman basically said that I should do something called pulse low dose radiation. And he wanted to kick me over to the radiologist at Fox Chase, a guy by the name of Eric Horowitz. And I was able to finally get an appointment with him today because I had to wait because I was considered a new patient. And he basically disagreed with Geinesman, and he basically felt that I should do brachy. Now, in order to do brachy, he wanted to kick me back to urologist David Chen, who I had saw in the past, and he wanted to do cryotherapy, and I basically rejected that to do the fusion biopsy. So I pointed out to Dr. Horowitz that while I was waiting for him, I consulted with the partner of the original radon who did my initial radiation. I had EBRT because I had a Gleason 9 with adjuvant Firmagon for 8 months. And I was surprised at his comment that he didn't feel any salvage RT would benefit me. He felt that the risk would be dramatic because I did have mild toxicity from the initial radiation. So he felt that any additional salvage radiation, regardless whether brachy or the new pulse low dose radiation, he didn't think that would benefit me. He also pointed out that because I was a Gleason 9, there's a very high probability that I'm already micrometastatic, even though the scan cannot pick it up at this point. He pointed out that the new uptake area in the right side was not there only 6 months ago. So he said that if it turns out that I am micrometastatic, all this will be for naught. And Horace just basically dismissed that, saying that any side effects can be treated by the urologist with medication. Because I had asked Geinesman whether I can go on Orgovix for intermittent hormone 6 months. He said that would be his choice of last resort. He didn't recommend that. And so what I wanted to ask is, anybody have any experience with brachy at Fox Chase? I know a lot of people had Orgovix from Geinesman, and I'm wondering, which doctor should I follow, because the local radon doesn't have a stake in the game. I know that Horowitz was basically touting that Fox Chase has the one of two centers in the Northeast that specializes in brachy. And the other thing is he wants me to wait to set up an appointment to get a fusion biopsy, and then it's just going to delay my treatment, and the PSA is rising. So I pointed out should I wait or just do the hormone therapy and forego radiation therapy? But he's saying no, you should do the radiation therapy because it could be curative. Any
So,
opinions?
Alan, did you say you already had radiation therapy?
Yeah. A brief summary. I was diagnosed in June of 2018 from biopsy, Gleason 4+5 in the right side, one core, Gleason 3+4 on the left side, with a bulge in the capsule from the MRI. Underwent 45 treatments of EBRT, 81 gray, with adjuvant Firmagon for 8 months. PSA went non-detectable in November of 2019, and then from that time it has gone up steadily. At when it hit 0.29, I had a 3 Tesla MRI, showed nothing. When it hit 0.95, I had that first PSMA scan that showed the uptake. But in the meantime, I consulted with the Geinesman, David Chen, as well as Smith from Sloan Kettering. They all said that your PSA is too low. It didn't meet the Astro Phoenix criteria, 2 points above nadir. So basically, they said to watch. And then in February of this year, the PSA hit 2.21. So that's when I asked for the second PSMA test. This one shows that there is progression in the left lobe, as well as the new one in the right lobe. And the radiologist says, even though there's no obvious evidence, regional lymph nodes involvement, he says that I'm oligometastatic.
So am I hearing that the only thing they're seeing is inside the gland and they're not seeing anything distant?
Correct. Correct.
Right.
They haven't seen
So,
anything obvious,
so this is a
But
really, I just want to make a comment which is applicable to what we said earlier on. This is a man with 4+5 who does therapy and adjuvant radiation and adjuvant hormone therapy, but he only does 8 months with 4+5. And this is exactly the reason why we in this group feel strongly that more is better than less. Because when you do a little more up front, you don't have these problems coming back. The issue is not in my view, and I'm not a doc, but if it were me, I'd be thinking the issue may not be just within the gland. We don't know, but the issue could be with 4+5. This is already systemic, but it's micrometastatic. Have you ever had, when they did the 45 treatments, did that include the whole pelvic girdle, Alan?
it did. They actually even did a wider field, and that caused me
Okay.
severe white count and lymphocyte plummeted when
Sure.
they did that. They had to stop radiation for a while. He was surprised that this is the first time it happened, and the reason they did the wider field is because it was a Gleason 9.
Well, what puzzles me is the recurrence in the gland, which we rarely see when if the gland's fully treated in the first place. So it
According to
makes
Geinesman as well as Horrocks, that's very common. They've seen that quite a bit in Fox Chase. People have been radiated and recurrence in the prostate gland. I specifically asked about that. They said it's
we
very,
don't
very
see it.
common.
I mean, we've been running these groups for years. We don't. I mean, I'll defer to anyone else or the other moderators. Len, how often do we see recurrence in the gland when the gland's been fully treated in the first place? I mean, not that that's anything to go by,
Very,
Alan, but
very rare. But of course, I guess Geinesman would have a broader experience than we would in our group.
we would, but we don't see it that often.
No.
So the real question is, I mean, I sort of see what they're thinking. Treat the gland again, see if it knocks it back. If it doesn't knock it back, then we've got to treat with more systemic. But I don't think any of us really would have the experience to talk about retreating the gland and what is best to retreat the gland. I mean, we
Has anyone had any experience with salvage brachy at Fox Chase?
not with salvage brachy. Again,
Okay.
salvage brachy is pretty rare. It's something they're starting to do right now. Are they talking about doing the salvage brachy with high dose radiation?
Correct, HDR.
With
Two
HDR?
sessions, 12 ray each, right? 1 week apart,
Well,
both with anesthesia.
again, it can be done in 1 or 2. Some practitioners will do it in 1. Other practitioners prefer to do it in 2. Something you need to look into because, especially given that it's salvage. The other thing that I'm thinking of, which we've been talking about quite a bit here, this might be a really good situation for something like ViewRay for Meridian. But I don't know enough about Meridian, but I might want to look quite carefully at Meridian, at the
Because
Meridian ViewRay
the
technology.
pulse low dose radiation, what Geinsman recommended, is something similar. It says that basically they treat the cancer with lower doses over a longer period of time, and the cancer is supposed to be hypersensitive to low doses versus resistant high dose. But Horace shot it down. He said no. He says in my case he felt it's more appropriate to do brachy because they're geared up for that. And the
And
other
where is
local radon said that he didn't feel that radiation, any salvage radiation, would be helpful because, like you, he feels that very likely it's already micrometastasized, and I'll be wasting all this pain
okay?
and
I
effort.
know exactly what I'm going to tell you to do. I know, I got it. Okay. There is a radonc we really, really like at Penn. Okay? Hold on a minute because she's got a difficult name, but I know where to find that name. Just bear with me 1 second. And I met her at GU, and she's delightful. She's really smart, and and I think you should get a second opinion from her. So hold on a second
What
and
would be a
let me.
third opinion? Because I already got a second opinion from the local guy.
Well, you got a second opinion. You got one opinion from your local radonc, right?
Correct. One
And then you
opinion
got a
from
second
Horowitz.
opinion from this guy
Eric
Horowitz,
Horowitz. Yeah.
right?
Anybody know
But
him?
does anybody know him?
I know you guys know
Um,
Geinesman, but I don't know if
well,
you know Horowitz.
we do know Geinesman. What the heck's
Rick,
her name?
Rick, what about Michael Zalewski at MSK? He's
Yeah,
a
that
Well,
was the
breakthrough
second
therapy specialist.
facility that he mentioned. He says only 2 facilities in the Northeast that are geared up for brachy. That's Fox Chase and Sloan Kettering, New York,
no,
which
that's
is
not
Valencia.
right.
That's not true.
That's not right.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
That's not
But Za-
right. I can tell
but
you
that's
that's not right.
Zalewski's expertise
Yeah,
in brachytherapy.
yeah. Let me just see if I can give you the name of this lady. That's what I would do. I mean, you're in that South Jersey
I'm
area,
in Central
correct?
Jersey. I'm in Central Jersey,
Okay. Well, if you're in Central Jersey, yeah. I mean,
Ocean
go up and
County.
see Zalewski. I was
Well,
thinking you were.
I saw a Bob Smith, urologist, Sloan Kettering, in Monmouth. I saw him the first time for the first PSMA, and then tried to get an appointment the second time. He told me that
Yeah, but
before he
don't
would
go to
discuss any
Monmouth.
treatment, he wants me to do a biopsy.
Don't go to Monmouth. Go to the city.
Well, the problem is, how long would it take for me to get an appointment? I had to wait almost 2 months to get an appointment with Horowitz. You know,
There's a
I
lot of
asked Geinsman,
problems I
what if we
can't
just
solve.
forego?
There are a lot of problems I cannot solve for you, but
I understand, but I
you
asked
may as well
Geinsman, what
go to
about?
the best.
Well, in the
So
meantime,
yeah,
what did you say about your current hormone therapy situation?
I didn't catch that question.
what's her name?
What's your current hormone therapy situation?
Oh, I'm not on a hormone therapy. I stopped
You're
it
not
when I
on
got
hormone
back.
therapy. So, in the meantime, I mean, if you want to take the rush out of this, you're still hormone sensitive. Why wouldn't you just go back on hormone therapy while you're working
I
out what to
asked
do with the
Geinesman
tumor?
about that to go on, Orgovix, and he said that that would be the last resort. He want pushing me to see the radon for
I
local
don't,
treatment.
personally, I don't see why that's a last resort. I mean,
Yeah,
you could bring the progression to a halt while you're doing this and also prepare the gland for radiation.
Right, but the radon said that don't do it until you do the biopsy because you're going to school the
Oh,
results. So he wants me
oh,
to wait.
oh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
okay, I
but
got it.
Alan, I'm very concerned about radiating that area again, especially when you had some serious side effects the first
I didn't
time.
have serious, mild incontinence.
What? Well, brachytherapy will lock that in for the rest of your life. That's for
Correct,
sure.
correct, correct. That's the reason the local guy said don't do any salvage radiation.
But didn't you say your white blood cell count dropped?
In the initial treatment, after 19 treatments, the white count as well as the lymphocytes plummeted because they did a wider field that hit more of the bone marrow. So they did a lot of damage, from that. That's what, and it didn't recover until 2 years later.
Yeah,
That's Whitefield. They're saying this will be focused. The brachy will be focused on the prostate. It wouldn't be
right.
anywhere near the bone marrow.
Well, yeah,
But
I'd love to get Zalewski's opinion on
yeah,
radiation
I am
again.
concerned about the side effects because I'm thinking maybe I'll just forego radiation, just do the hormone therapy. And regarding that, Geinesman is insistent. He says 6 months and out. That's it, no more.
Did he say
Uh,
why?
He said if I insist, he would do Orgovix, but only for 6 months. But again, he's saying that's not his recommendation.
Yeah,
His
because
recommendation
they're
is local
going by
therapy.
this latest. They're going by the latest research that came out. It's the flavor of the month right now, and they don't want to overtreat. And it doesn't persuade me. And like Norm Pollock said, it didn't. They had this discussion. Half the doc said 6 months, half the doc said 2 years. So it's hard to tell. I put in the I put the doctor I'm thinking of is Dr. Vapiwala, and
I see it. I see it.
we've had at least two people that have really sung her praises. They loved her. They absolutely loved her. So, what I would, if it were me, I'd go see what she says. You probably will get in to see her quicker than Zalewski, but Zalewski is another good choice.
Does anyone think that by waiting, because the PSA doubling time is down to 4.5 months, and I'm worried that the longer I wait, then if it's not micrometastasis, it may micrometastasize during the wait, and because they don't want
Well,
me to
how
treat it
fast can
unless
they
I do
do
the
the
biopsy.
how fast can you get the biopsy done?
I don't know. He put in a referral to see David Chen. I don't know how long that's going to take. But he said that since I'm an existing patient, it'll be quicker than to see him. It took almost 2 months to get an appointment with Horace. And there was no cancellations. I was on the waiting list
I mean,
because
anybody
I'm
can
a new
do a
patient.
biopsy. I don't think you need to
Yeah, but
get too.
why would I do a biopsy if I decide not to do hormone therapy at all? I mean, I'm sorry, not a radiation therapy. I can just forego, because the biopsy will be fusion biopsy under anesthesia plus 2 brachy's both under anesthesia. And if there's a possibility of micrometastatic, why do it at all? Just go with the Orgovix and forgo
Why
that.
do they want to do the biopsy? Did they tell you?
To tell you the truth, it's probably to cover their ass, because
I
he
mean,
said
is
that,
there any doubt that is there doubt in their mind that what the PSMA is showing in the gland is
not in my
not
mind,
prostate
it's pretty
cancer?
to me. It's pretty obvious to me, but Sloan
So,
Kettering said the
I
same
would
thing.
push them hard.
They
I'd push
need
them real
tissue
hard
proof,
on
tissue proof.
whether to do the biopsy or not. If you do the biopsy, as Henry has said, it's definitely worth getting it sequenced to see if we see anything in there.
Right.
And I mean, we already know you're a 4+5, but if they insist on doing a biopsy, I mean, to confirm that the PSMA scan is right.
Well, he said that Horowitz said that he wants to know. It could be a Gleason 10, it could be a Gleason 6. But I pointed out
what
to him.
difference?
I
What
pointed out
difference
when,
does it make?
yeah, but I
What the,
pointed out
you,
well, he says
look,
it would change. It
here's
would
the
change
thing.
their
Here's what I
treatment.
would say to Horowitz, Alan.
Yeah.
I'm a 4+5. Does it matter what's come back?
Yeah.
We
I
know
also
we
pointed
got
out to
4 in
him
the
that
gland, and we know we got 5 in the gland. So what difference does it make?
well, he
If
says
you've got
he
5
says it
in the
makes a
gland
difference.
and it's come back, then you're a 4+5, even if they see a 3+3 this time, because they don't know where the other 5s might have gotten to. I mean,
And I did
to
ask
me,
him.
it's a little crazy.
I did ask
It's
him
a
to give
little.
me some statistics, and he said he couldn't until I did a biopsy. So I also pointed out to him that when you have an irradiated prostate, a lot of times they can't do a pathology, and he acknowledged that. That's true. Sometimes they can't do a pathology, so it would be moot. So I'm hearing a lot of this, anesthesia, fusion biopsy, and I'm wondering, should I even listen to that, or just listen to the local guy and just forego that and go with
No,
hormone
I
therapy?
wouldn't listen to the local guy, but I would get a third opinion, and get it from Zalewski or go see Dr. Vapiwala. That's what I would do. If we're not going to lead you wrong here. She's terrific, smart, very bright. I heard her present at GU ASCO in February. I went up and introduced myself to her because we've heard patients talk so highly of her, and she's she's great. A little snip of a thing, and she's really great. She's lovely and smart.
I'll check her out tomorrow. See if I can get an appointment.
Okay, if you cannot,
Hmm.
maybe we can help you because
Okay.
she'll definitely remember who we are.
And you said she's at UPenn in Philadelphia?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah. I put her contact information in the website in the chat window for you, as well as Zalewski.
I know a lot of people here have experience with Orgovyx. Joe Gallo, I think he left. But any feedback on the side effects? I know the earlier guy said he had a lot of hot flashes. Any other symptoms, side effects?
Well, there's a lot of feedback we can give you on hormone therapy and using hormone therapy, a huge amount. We could spend a lot of time. But first of all, let's see whether you got to go on it first. And if you do have to go on it, we will definitely hold your hand through that because I think everybody on this call has got significant experience with hormone therapy.
Okay. Because I got my supply of Orgovyx just today, FedEx, during the long wait
Oh,
for Horowitz.
Alan, didn't you already have 6 months of hormone therapy?
No, I had initially 8 months of Firmagon back in 2018.
Right, that's
Right.
hormone therapy. That's hormone therapy.
That's the same.
Right.
The
That
same
was
as
Firmagon.
Orgovyx, only it's an injection.
Well, they say Orgovyx has a shorter, a quicker response time for the testosterone. My testosterone has never
no,
recovered from Firmagon. It's
no.
always been low.
It's no faster than Firmagon. So you know what hormone therapy is like. You've been on Firmagon. It's going to be the same with Orgovyx.
Right, but it's going to be oral versus injections.
Right. That's the only difference.
But I would not start taking the Orgovyx until you get a second opinion because you may not want to drive your PSA down until you get a second opinion.
Why is that? Don't
Go
I run
ahead,
the risk?
someone else.
Don't I run the risk? Don't I run a risk that it may spread during the interim, during the wait? It's already been, 6 months. I asked them about this 6 months ago. They gave me this Astro Phoenix criteria. You got to be 2 points above nadir. And it basically wasted 6 months of my time. We should have had this discussion 6 months ago with the first PYLARIFY scan. But all the doctors saying, oh, no, you're too low. You got to wait till 2 points above, and then we can, then your biochemical, recurrence, then we can look to treat you. So that was now 7 months ago.
Okay, I mean, I wouldn't have waited either, and all I can say is that you did wait, but if it would have been us, we would have been pushing a lot harder to get that PSA done, that PSMA done when you were somewhere around 0.6 to 0.8, and would have argued with them about the nadir. Why wouldn't I take it? Because you had a PYLARIFY, right?
Correct. Twice.
Again, I don't love the PYLARIFY. I'd rather go with the gallium-68. But the fact is that if you make a change right now, if you start taking that hormone therapy right now, then it's going to prevent any further detection if the doctor that you're getting a second opinion with is not happy with reading those PYLARIFY scans.
Understood.
So that's why I would wait. I try and get an appointment quickly, and you've got the Orgovyx. So if you wait another 2 weeks, that's not.
Well, I'm hoping it's only 2 weeks because, like I said, it was almost 2 months to get the appointment with Horowitz.
Okay, but we don't know. So why don't you see where you are and like I say, I don't know that we can do much with Zalewski. Somebody knows Zalewski. Who went to school? Was it Stan Friedman? No, somebody went to school with Zalewski. They told us recently. I can't think who it was. somebody went in to see him and they said that they'd gone to school with Zalewski. I can't think who it was.
Is that going to get me in quicker?
It may do. You never know. That's what if we have the right in, then we can sometimes work magic, and we do work magic. But we have to remember who the heck it was that saw Zalewski,
Okay.
and who knew Zalewski.
Well, let me
and
know. I'll try Dr. Vepila.
Vapiwala.
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 Dr.
Yeah, I'll try to
V.
schedule an appointment with her tomorrow and see
Tell
how
her,
quick I can do.
tell her Rick Davis at ANCAN sent you,
Okay.
and you can remind her that I met her at GU ASCO.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, gentlemen. Alan was our last member to request time, so I think we can wrap it up, Rick.
Yes, Nigel Woods here.
Oh, Nigel, I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Nigel. I forgot about
Yeah,
you.
I'll make it really quick because I know we're sort of past time right now. But as you know, I've gone from 0.01 to 0.03, and I've now instituted my PSA tests every month instead of every 3 months.
Hold on. Sorry, Nigel. Sorry to interrupt you. Murray, we're at the back end of the prostate cancer group. Come back in about 10 minutes. Exactly the way you just came in. Sorry. Go ahead, Nigel.
Yeah. So anyway, it appears possibly that there is an upward trajectory started. It stayed at 0.01 for almost 6 months now at 0.03. And I wanted to find out from you guys, in particular, I don't know if there's any Canadians in the group, but this genetic testing, at what point would I ask for it? And if so, why should I?
What's
What's
your
it all
Gleason
about?
score, Nigel?
It was an 8.
8. And you've had recurrence.
Yes.
So you're high risk. You've had recurrence. The conventional wisdom is you should have genetic analysis.
Okay. Is anyone in the group a Canadian who has gone through the process to get that done here in Canada?
Okay, so I think there's some confusion here. I think that we're talking about germline genetic testing.
Yes.
To see if you've inherited anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wondering if you're talking about something like a Decipher test or something similar to that. I just want to be sure. Or Prolaris. What sort of testing are you talking about?
Well, what I'm trying to do is try and get out ahead of my situation. If it continues to climb, I'm on ADT, Zoladex, and enzalutamide now, have been now for 9 months,
Okay,
right?
got it.
Okay. So what benefit of genetic testing in my situation? Because presumably, like everything in Canada takes longer than you think, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's the fact.
So here's what I think. Here's what what you're talking about is genomic sequencing.
Yes.
Okay.
That is, yes. Yeah.
Which is where Len was going. So you're talking about. I just wanted to clarify. So you're talking about genomic sequencing. You should also get, but you don't need to do it right away. If you're going to get genomic sequencing, you may later have to get genetic testing. The best way to go about genomic sequencing is to contact Foundation Medicine in Canada.
Yeah.
I think the website is, I think it's foundationmedicine.ca. Let me see if that works. Let me just put that in. And they will need some recent tissue to do that. Do you
Which
have do you have any metastases that are evident?
the only tissue that's available would have been from my prostatectomy that was done back in 2020.
Yes.
I mean, it could be used, but the problem is it's not going to be that accurate, especially since you've done a bunch of hormone therapy since then.
Okay.
So let me just see. I mean, and your PSA and your PSA is not high enough to to
Oh, hang
assure
on,
you of a
hang on,
result.
hang on. I did have part of the reoccurrence, Rick. I had a lymph node in my neck and one in my underarm, and they biopsied those. Okay, and that was done in I think it was May of last year when they did
Right,
targeted radiation
perfect.
on those spots.
Perfect.
They do
So
have that.
here's what I would do. I put the website in the window for you, foundationmedicine.ca.
Yeah,
Call them up. Talk to them about pricing.
yeah,
Because you're probably going to have to go privately.
yeah.
You can usually cut a deal with them. If you
Hmm.
cannot, let me know and I'll see what we can do. But we are not as effective outside of the US as we are in the US.
Yeah,
But most of the time, they'll give you a much more aggressive price if you don't have coverage. But
yeah,
that's where I would start. I've got the website up in front of me. There's an 800 number 2 on the website.
yeah.
So I would start with Foundation Medicine Canada.
Okay, so that would in anticipation. I mean, in my case, the cancer hasn't had a holiday except for 6 months, right? And I'm just anticipating that it may continue to inch up. Well, because I'm going to get tested every month from now
Oh, okay, but
on.
here's the problem. 0.01 to 0.03 is not reliable.
Okay,
It's what we said before. If you
yeah,
went from 0.1 to 0.3, we take it more seriously. But there's too much variance in these tests at that back end.
okay.
Okay,
Now,
so and I'm having trouble right now finding the 800 number. Oh, here it is. Okay, I'll put the 800 number isn't obvious, so I'll put it in the website for you. You've got to order a test, but you should find they're pretty good. If you don't get good result, let me know and I'll see what we can do
all right.
back door. But don't assume that because you've gone from 0.01 to 0.03 that you're inching up. Len, you want to say anything on this?
No, I agree with you there, Rick. However, since he is on ADT plus enzalutamide, another move up could signify that you're resistant to hormone therapy. So it makes the genetic analysis or genome analysis even more
Right.
important.
Okay, okay. Um, just one other quick question.
We
I'm
we
having
don't have time. I'm really sorry, but we got to close out the room because we've got to reopen the room for the MS. Come in next Monday. I promise I'll take you right at the beginning.
Thank you very much. That's great, you guys, and another good session.
Okay?
Good night.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Good night,
Bye.
all.
Rick,
Take
can I
care.
stop the recording?
No, I'll just close the room. It's fine.
Bye, guys. Enjoyed it.
Bye.
Good night,
Bye.
Bye,
everybody.
Henry. Hello, Henry. Goodbye, Henry.
Bye.